as to what actually happened. We saw the video, and the most disturbing thing about what Senator Cotton just said is this notion that they were trying to flip the boat back over and get back into the fight. Based on the video, that's patently ridiculous. And Admiral Bradley even said in the briefing that he had concluded that there was no way that that boat was being right-sized. They were standing or leaning on the bow of the boat, which was the only part of the boat that was still sticking out of the water, and it was capsized. There was no way they were flipping that back over and going anywhere. The boat was totally disabled and floating in the current. The argument that the Admiral made is that they couldn't tell if the drugs were destroyed. And look, the first strike set the boat on fire, flipped it over. Like I said, only the bow sticking up. There's no way to tell that there were any drugs left there, and quite a few reasons to conclude that there weren't. But that was the basis for the strike. Not that they were trying to right-size the boat and go on their merry way. That wasn't happening. It was, I suppose, arguably possible that someone could come to assist them, but we had eyes on the scene and nobody was. So they weren't trying to flip the boat back over and get into the fight. They were simply sitting on the boat trying to survive. So I don't agree with that characterization. Right. Cotton is right. The real issue here is the orders around the whole mission.
When you talk about the mission in general, here the number of strikes on suspected boats, there hasn't been a strike since November 17th. We could show our audience here the calendar. There was basically one almost every other day in October, many in November, and none since November 10th, or November 15th, excuse me. The Secretary of War, Congressman Pete Hegseth, said this the other day in the cabinet room, and then I want to pick it up with you on the other side.
We've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. We've had a bit of a pause because it's hard to find boats to strike right now, which is the entire point.
He says it's the entire point. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. No. In fact, he wouldn't agree with that if he thought about it for 2 seconds. The entire point, I guess, is to try to stop drugs from coming into the United States or severely restrict their flow. There's no evidence at this point that the flow has been severely restricted. And again, remember, we're talking about cocaine here. Fentanyl is the primary killer in America. That is what people are overdosing on, and this entire operation has nothing to do with fentanyl. And the conclusion here, and it's really important, that the only reason that this strike has the veneer of possibly being legal is the argument that these two were trying to get back into, quote, the fight, end quote. When you're in a normal combat situation, you have to think about, okay, I've wounded this person, they appear disabled, but could they possibly still get up and shoot at me? These two weren't shooting at anybody. They were deemed to be possibly getting back into the fight by the possibility that the cocaine was still there in the bottom of the boat, and they might find some other way to transmit it, and also not to the United States. They had no idea where this cocaine was going. So it's really attenuated to say that they were back in the fight or directly related to the drug problem we have in the U.S.
As I mentioned, you were a part of the briefing there with the Admiral. This is one part of a very big and complicated story, because when you project forward, there's the decision from the Commander-in-Chief potentially coming, Congressman Smith, on what to do with potential strikes inside Venezuela. Did you get a sense from the Admiral about what might be coming next?
That did not come up, and that is also part of the problem here. This mission has been presented as really focused on drugs. Got to stop drugs coming in. Well, problem number one is at the same time that's going on, President Trump is pardoning massive drug dealers. The former president of Honduras, who was convicted in U.S. courts of trafficking hundreds of tons of cocaine in the U.S., he's going to pardon him. He also pardoned Ross Ulbricht from the Silk Road, who was using crypto and secure lines on the internet to launder money for billions of dollars in drugs. He pardoned both of them. And then second, the president has talked a lot about wanting to get rid of Maduro in Venezuela. So is this about drugs or is this about regime change? And none of it has been authorized by Congress.
We've covered all this, but let me leave our audience with this, because you are the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. You've got a big job and a wide perch up there, Congressman. What do you think happens next in Venezuela?
It's really hard to say. I don't know what the president's going to do. I'll tell you, there is no way on earth we should be going to war or trying to do regime change in Venezuela. We should be out of the regime change business. I'm not a fan of Maduro, but the idea that all you got to do is remove someone and something better automatically comes in its place, I would trust that Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, a whole lot of places would have taught us that lesson by now, and that we would be out of the regime change business.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.